Hey there, Prof. Aram here, and in this video we're going to look at some of the relationships between the yield to maturity, price, and coupon rate. Okay, so let's get to this. The first thing that we want to emphasize on is the relationship between the rate, which is yield to maturity here, the discount rate, and the price. We saw that the way we find the price is by discounting the payments with the yield to maturity. And so on and so forth, so to the last one. This is future value or par value. There is always an inverse relationship between the discount rate, which is in this case yield to maturity, and the present value, which is the price of the bond here. If we increase the yield to maturity, we are going to increase the opportunity cost of these cash flows. We're going to penalize these cash flows more heavily, so their present value would be lower. In other words, we're going to make these denominators bigger if we increase the rate. And vice versa, if we decrease the rate or decrease the yield to maturity, we're going to lower the opportunity cost of these cash flows, and of course the price would rise. There is always an inverse relationship between the price of the bond and its yield to maturity. So here we have an example of a bond with 8% coupon rate. As you can see, at 8%, the bond is priced at par. If we increase the rate to 10% or 12%, of course we're going to see that the price will fall. Higher the rate, lower the price. And if we lower the rate from 8% to, let's say, 4%, right, we'll see that the price will rise to about 1,350. So there is an inverse relationship between the bond price and yield to maturity. The higher the yield to maturity, the lower the price. We can basically formalize the relationship like this. If the yield to maturity equals the coupon rate, then you're going to end up with a par value, or a bond with $1,000 value. If the yield to maturity is higher than the coupon rate, then the bond price is going to be less than 1,000. So price would be less than 1,000, less than par value. And if the yield to maturity is less than the coupon rate, the price would be greater than $1,000. We call this a premium bond, and this one is a discount bond. So let's go back to our discussion that we had here. As I mentioned in the introductory video, this payment is fixed. In the bond contract, you know exactly how much you will receive every period. That's why actually we call bonds fixed income instruments, because we know exactly how much income we are going to receive for any bond. We know exactly how much income we receive when we invest in a bond. So these payments are going to be fixed. What is variable is the yield to maturity of the bond. So if we have a situation where the coupon rate equals the yield to maturity, like in this case, coupon rate is 10% and yield to maturity is 10%, you definitely end up with a $1,000 price bond, a par bond. But if you lower the yield to maturity to 8%, then you're penalizing this fixed income, fixed cash flows less heavily. That's why you end up with a more valuable bond. We call this a premium bond. And again, if you increase the rate from 10% to 11%, now you're penalizing these cash flows, the fixed income, more heavily. So that's why you end up with $936, a discount bond. So this bond is going to be less valuable compared to a par bond or a premium bond. So very, very important relationship here. There is an inverse relationship between the bond price and the yield to maturity. And then we can formalize these relationships in this slide. Right? So if yield to maturity is the same as the coupon rate, you have a par bond. If yield to maturity is greater than coupon rate, you'll have a discount bond. And then if you have a yield to maturity that is less than the coupon rate, you will have a premium bond. I hope you find this video useful, and thanks for watching.